desire to hurt anything and everything around them. There are other instances where we have celebrities and even lay individuals who have put a hold on having children and instead prefer to refer to their pets as children. It may be weird, but today on Women's Voice, we would like to probe further what zoophilism is. Let me define it, attempt to define it. According to Google, zoophilism is the tendency to be emotionally attached to animals. Has it come to replace procreation? Well, we would find out. Earlier this year, we had the Pope Francis criticize couples who refuse to have children, saying dogs and cats cannot replace children. Well, what are your thoughts? Do join us later on. I have with me the Executive Director of the National Population Council, Dr. Letitia Adelaide Appiah. And later on, also joining us via Zoom, is a clinical psychologist, Dr. Isaac Newman Arthur. We hope to connect through to him soon so that we can have him join us. You too viewing at home and in your offices can join us on our WhatsApp line 055-744-6429 or call us on 0264-200-997. 0264-200-997. We are also live on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. Dr. Adelaide Appiah, I know the studio is not a new, or Women's Voice studio is not new to you. You've been here recently to discuss population issues. And, well, this also has some implication on population issues. First of all, what do you make of the Pope's call to not to replace children with dogs and cats or any other pet?
Well, thanks for the opportunity once again. I think the Pope's call is a very important call. You know, population management, as I read the Pope's call, it's like the weather, you know. The Pope is talking to, in a context. When you are in a place where there's winter, you're encouraged to put on winter clothes. It does not mean that when another place is in summer, because the Pope is saying this, you also put on winter clothes in summer.
Okay.
You know, so it is important that we see the context in which the Pope is talking.
Okay.
Human beings cannot be replaced with cats, because then how do we progress intergenerationally? But there should be a balance. I'm sure if the Pope was in Africa, where we have not too much premium on children, where we have child slaves, where we have children on the street, where children go hungry, then he would say, you know something, I think the most important is the quality of care that we give. So the Pope's call, it's like underweight and overweight. If somebody is obese, you have to encourage the person to, in a healthy way, lose weight. Okay. If somebody is underweight, likewise, you have to encourage the person in a healthy way to gain weight. Okay. So it is very appropriate.
All right. Well, before we continue with the show, we'd like to take a breather and we'll be back shortly.
Get ready! Ready for super duper experience.
Quality entertainment.
Real issues, real opinions from fashion, tourism, arts, music, movies, and many more. It's time for something unfiltered. Spectacle, a new television entertainment show ready to correct refractive errors in the creative arts industry. Spectacle, real entertainment, real people. Spectacle, Yabba, Nayaba, Spectacle.
It's all about entertainment.
Oh, get off the phone, can't you see?
Hello, ma'am.
So you've applied for the devil's work?
Oh, yes. It's such an easy job, you know. I have passion for it.
Tell us more.
I have a tight schedule. So to save time, I try to answer my calls and messages while driving.
Is it not risky?
Oh, Massa, listen. 120 kilometer per hour. On a 50 kilometer per hour road, Grammy, I do. And small talking on the phone while driving, you say it is risky. It is not.
But you and your kids are not strapped in.
I know. And these children, they are tough. Oh. Don't mind the body.
So how do you feel about yourself?
I feel proud. I love my job.
Are you sure you are not the devil? Make you not do Abonsamejuma. Stay alive. This Stay Alive campaign is brought to you by the National Road Safety Authority.
It is a nightmare dealing with the filth in Accra. The gutters are choked with garbage. The streets are a jumble of filth. The beauty of the serene beaches is marred with human feces and plastics as many defecate in the open. Residents are up in arms when the situation gets out of hand.
Because of these meetings, you can't even stand there for even a minute. As we speak, if the mosquitoes even refuse to breathe.
Partners in sanitation suggest alternative policy interventions.
Landfilling is not the way forward. We are recommending treatment facilities.
But in all of this, have we made gains in the sector?
How can you have a people who have a lot of dignity and still practicing open defecation?
The task facing Ghana to achieve SDG Goal 6 on clean water and sanitation for all is Herculean and riddled with equally complicated hurdles. Join us every Thursday on Wash Hour from 4:05 p.m. to 5 p.m. as we seek to put these issues and more in perspective. Watch a repeat on Fridays from 1 to 2 p.m. and on Sundays 9:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. It is our duty to keep our surroundings clean and free from disease.
Welcome back from the break. If you just tuned in, this is Women's Voice, and today we are discussing zoophilism, whether it has come to take the place of procreation as was ordained by God. Zoophilism is the tendency for human beings to develop extreme emotional love for their pets or animals they rear at home. And we want to find out, I mean, it's become a trend. People are putting a hold on having children and preferring to call their dogs and cats or other pets as children. So I have with me Dr. Adelaide Letitia Pierre. She's the Executive Director of the National Population Council, and she's with me here in the studio. But joining me via Zoom is Dr. Isaac Newman Arthur. He's a clinical psychologist, because much of what we are discussing has to do with human emotions, so we need to probe further what the psychology or the psyche of such people are, to see whether we can understand them better. Hello, good afternoon, Dr. Newman.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you loud and clear. I hope you heard my introduction, that these days people are putting a hold on children to refer to their animals or pets as children. What do you think is accounting for this trend? First of all, what do you make of it as a psychologist, a professional, and then what do you think is accounting for this trend?
I think that for every human being, generally, basically, there are things, there are basic needs. We have basic needs. And so basic needs of food, of shelter, of security, of sense of belonging, you know, and self-esteem and all that. So people use certain things to, what do you call it? to meet their basic needs. So if you have someone who is someone who loves animals or is overly, attached to an animal, they should have a reason. It means that the presence of that animal, help them satisfy their basic needs. That is the first one. The second has to do with the fact that sometimes, because of past experiences with, actual people, some people feel that relating with people on that level may remind them of certain pain or past events that they don't want to get involved with, and that can also affect them. And again, with animals, you have control over what happens around them and what they do and what they don't do. And so animals become more trustworthy even than human beings in a way. And in communities where premium is not placed on having kids and children, childbearing is not a major thing. So all over the world, you realize that people are drifting into something like that because animals are more trustworthy. Some what do you call it? Some aspects of their relationship with animals, can be sometimes even better than human relationships, like security, their presence and attention and all that. And now because we are replacing human relationships with all kinds of things, animals don't use mobile phones. You may be in the same room with another person, and the person is stuck with their mobile phones. But animals don't use those things. So the dynamics of relationships have changed. And so whichever gives them some sense of belonging and helps them forget about their pain, help them make some progress and stuff like that, they tend to be attached to those things.
You are right about the dynamics of relationship, but I mean, the core of any relationship is communication. And I mean, human beings relate to each other or communicate with each other on a level that both understand each other. But an animal, no matter how trained the animal is, the animal may not respond to you vocally as, apart from a parrot anyway, but the parrot just repeats what you say. But animals may not respond to you vocally or sometimes in an emotional manner as a human being would. So, I mean, does this not defeat the fact that you say it satisfies their basic needs?
Yeah, well, so it depends on the individual. When it comes to even human communication and all that, a lot of things can come out of it. Like I said, there are two people who may dwell in the same environment. They may not talk to each other. Anytime they try to talk to each other, there's some conflict, there's some fights and stuff like that. Some people feel that animals won't go into conflict with you. They will not misunderstand you. They will not be rude to you. All those things that is involved in normal human relationships. So some people even feel that they can communicate better with animals and animals understand them better, because of the kind of relationship they have with animals. So depending on which individual it is and the reason why they have that relationship with that particular animal, it may be different from person to person. But when they replace human beings with animals, there may be some underlying, psychological problems like I have talked about that becomes the reason why they are attached to such an animal. And you realize that different cultures also have different representations for kids or for animals. Some people assign even some spiritual, connotations to animals, and it may give them some favors or some something. In our part of the environment, children are very, very critical. They represent an inheritance, they represent investment, they represent legacy, represent God's blessing. In our environment, we have a certain representation for kids. But other cultures too, it's not like that. So even if they are not having kids and they have animals around, it's fine. Someone, I think it's true. It was a joke, but it's true. That somewhere in Europe or US, if you arrange in terms of importance, children come first, women come next, animals come next before men. So something like that. Because there are all kinds of laws protecting animals than men, and stuff like that. So it depends on the environment or the society. The importance is different.
Okay. So you mentioned that animals may not be rude to you, they may not give you challenges or argue with you and all that. But what traits do animals have that human beings, that superimposes or overrides what human beings have? I mean, in terms of the positives?
I think that generally animals, they won't betray you. Animals generally will not lie to you. Animals generally will be loyal. If you train them well, they are very, very loyal people. Animals will look forward to your presence all the time, almost all the time. If you have a very good dog pet, they're always looking out for you and all that. Animals will obey you totally if you train them well. You virtually have control over their movements. Whatever you tell them to do, they are likely to do it. And they are there 24/7. If you want them around, they are there with you 24/7. It's not the same for human beings. And so some people feel that animals are better in terms of relationship than human beings. Animals won't break your heart except they die. Human beings are likely to do that. Animals will not go into conflict with you. Human beings will go into conflict with you. And when so people become overly dependent on animals if they don't have good human relationships, or if they've suffered some kind of traumatic event with an actual human being, it becomes difficult for them.
Okay, so you are referring to cases where probably a person is in solitude or has some psychological problem of a sort. But these days we have even couples, celebrity couples, deciding that, we don't want to have babies yet, so we have our dog as our first child, These two already have each other. They communicate, they show each other emotions. What do they need to refer to an animal as their child for?
Oh, I think it's just a fashion, or it's something that is in vogue, that's all. And now people attach a lot of importance to animals. As they even make sometimes even there are laws protecting animals than human beings. For example, if you have what do you call it? Some laws protect even the eggs of bald eagles. I think in the US or Europe or somewhere. But the eggs of bald eagles are protected by law, but not an unborn baby. You can easily abort a baby and not, damage a bald. It's strange. Some laws protect, turtles and stuff like that. Dogs in the US, you can't kill a dog. If you kill a dog, you are going to go to prison. But you can easily abort a child. So our society is becoming, very insensitive to some aspect of human experience and very, very sensitive to, animals because of what animals represent to individuals. Okay. So I think that sometimes that reference is as a result of the fact that we place more premium on some animals because of their importance to us than even human beings. Like for example, in some houses, dogs eat better food than human beings on the street. You'll be shocked. When all these things are there, some dogs have better clothes even than human beings. And so we are gradually drifting into a society where we place more importance on dogs than human beings because of all the disappointment with human relationships.
So from your perspective as a psychologist, do you think that willing $5 million to a dog is weird, or it's based on the explanation you've given earlier? It's okay. I mean, it's a normal thing. And my final question to you is that do you think this choice can come back to haunt such people who prefer to name their animals as their children?
Yes. So I think that to will such an amount of money to a dog, it means that the dog really represented something for you. There are a lot more questions to ask, from that person. I don't think it's absurd in a way. It's absurd in a way. But like I said, if the animal represented something to you and your existence made sense because of the animal, then such things, they're not weird in certain communities. But in our community, it's absurd. But I think that, children represent many things, especially to human populations. I said earlier on, they represent a legacy. They represent, an investment. They represent, a generation. They're a blessing from God and all that. And so, finally, as you grow older and everything else, all the achievements and stuff, the noise around you ceases. you will go into a certain kind of thinking about you and your generation and what you are leaving behind and all that. It will come back to haunt you. One day it's going to come back to haunt you. Especially young people who delay, and later on realize that they cannot have children. So I advise couples that, have kids as soon as you can, as early as you can, early in the marriage, because childbirth-related problems is very, very huge as you age. And at the time where all the fun has ended and life dawns on you, then you realize that, children are important. If for some reason you have some infertility problems, it's on another level. But if that is not there, kids are part of, especially if you enter into the right relationships and you're able to raise a very good kids. They're an important, resource in terms of sense of belonging and all that. And regardless of the human condition, you can never replace a human being with an animal. The two are totally different.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Isaac Newman-Arthur, for your time and sharing with us some psychological perspectives on this matter. Let me come back here to the studio where I have with me Dr. Adley Letitia Pia, who is the Executive Director of the National Population Council. You just heard the psychological perspective of this matter. What, as a population expert, do you make of it?
Well, thanks. From what Doctor said, what came to mind is what is termed the tragedy of the commons. The tragedy of the commons, it's when individuals' selfish needs or legitimate needs does not take into consideration the societal health. That is what's tragedy of the commons. So my individual need is to get attached to dogs, okay? But you are not thinking about the next generation. That is where tragedy of the commons comes in, because your individual need should fit into the societal health and societal good. And the best good any society can leave any nation is an educated, healthy, productive child. That is the most important common good that anybody can leave. And so we cannot replace humans with dogs. Neither can we also, on the other hand, replace our farmhands and slaves with our children. Because like I said, it is an educated person. That is a good. Somebody defines education as extracting the best from man by the skills, by the values, the knowledge. So what he said, yes, it all fits into individual selfish needs. Because I have been disappointed and so I get attached to a dog, but you're not thinking about the next generation. Because if, for instance, the population issues, 2 people gives birth to 1 child, which means that the next 2 generations, the population will be a quarter of it, because 2 people are giving birth to 1 child. And so you are doing this today and not thinking about the next generation. And the most important thing for generations to move on is educated, healthy children. Not just children that we would later and treat them as slaves, as farmhands. No, but educated, healthy children. And that is where the balance comes in. Okay, you mentioned the Pope's issue. Okay. And the Bible tells us about healthy limits. The Bible tells us not to think too highly or too low. So you think so highly of children, at times they think that taking care of children is more difficult than taking care of dogs. Like he said, the psychology of it. If you tell a dog to sleep, it will sleep. It will not argue with you. You will not have a teenager who will go out in the night and then you cannot sleep and you go looking for him or her, and so you forget it and take care of dogs because it is more expensive and more difficult to take care. But you do not think too highly of them, as the Bible says, and you do not think too lowly of them too, and produce them in such numbers that you use them anyhow. So they have to be respected and they have to be cared for. The most important is cared for, educated, healthy, happy children who will grow to be healthy, happy adolescents, and then generation from generation
I am trying to reconcile your position as someone who advocates for leaner families or not having too many children, and what you're saying now that dogs or pets are more responsive to their owners than children and all that. I'm trying to reconcile that. I don't know whether you can help me out here, because if today my husband and I, for instance, decide to have 2 children, and my children grow up and decide to have 1, and the next generation after decide not to have children but rather keep pets. You've been an advocate of reducing family size, family planning and all that. How do we reconcile this?
You know, let me come back to my profession a bit. I try to do that so that people understand. Like I said initially, it's like underweight and overweight. If you come to my consulting room and you are markedly obese, I wouldn't tell you to continue eating the 2 balls of KK and all that. I will tell you to reduce it. If you come and you're also so underweight that your bones are showing, I'm also going to tell you that, you know, eat healthily, because there's a normal weight for optimal life. That is what the National Population Council advocates for. And that is what actually the Pope is also advocating for. The Pope is saying there's winter because the people have lost weight. They are underweight. They are not replacing even themselves. You get it? And so up your game and then have children and take care of them. And here we are multiplying in leaps and bounds, and so we cannot also take care of them. You know, the most important thing in population management is human beings educated, healthy. That's the foundation on which everything hinges. That is the foundation on which unemployment hinges, the problems we are finding in ECOWAS hinges, and all that. It's all part of it. You know, when you produce numbers that are half-baked and cannot find employment, then they are restless. It's like the mines. They mine the ore that they can refine. And refining mine is like refining the human being through education. That's a process. So I'm not saying that just reduce the family size so that 2 people give birth to 1. That is not replacement. Replacement is at least 2. But what they talk about, replacement, taking into consideration mortalities, and that people, like the doctor said, it's not everybody who would also give birth. And so you make allowance for that. But reducing and replacing with cats and dogs, where are the people to educate? Cats and dogs do not do mining. Cats and dogs do not build schools. So you cannot replace human beings with cats and dogs. We have robots
now.
but robots were made by humans. It is humans that made the robots, you know. And then also, on the flip side, uneducated humans do not also build robots. Uneducated humans do not also build roads. And so the straight and narrow path the Bible talks about is everywhere. It is not this way or that way, but there's an optimal that we should all be.
If we are constantly hammering that people must reduce the rate at which they give birth and all that, at a point they get used to it, and they probably find that more fulfilling, more rewarding than probably going through the cycle of having children, shouting here and there, stressing yourself and stuff like that. It gets to a point they get used to it.
Well, but the issue is that when you are obese and somebody has lost weight so much, I think what you have to focus on is losing your weight to a normal weight, because you have to get to the normal weight before you move into the other side, you know. And then you would have direction.
You know, these 2 instances you're citing, really, they are quite different. I mean, it's a personal choice. Sometimes you try so hard to lose weight and you never gain the desired weight anyway. I mean, but in this instance, it's either yes or no.
What is yes or no?
Whether you want to have children or not.
Oh, yes, of course.
But in the instance where you're trying to reduce weight, I mean, you put in that effort, but sometimes it doesn't even work anyway.
But you think that is that easy to say yes or no even to children? You see, children, at times we reduce children to just the birth. We don't even count the costs. We don't assume that children are in Ghana up to 18 years. In the US, something I read, a child care from 0 to 17 years about over $200,000 to take care of a child. And the Bible also tells us that we should count the cost. So how are we balancing that? You know, it is important that quality becomes our guide. That quality becomes, I'm sitting here because of education, not because of me, but because of education. And it is education that will take us from where we are to where we want to go, and it's a quality education. So that should guide what we do. It is the numbers fine, but can we adequately educate, adequately absorb them? The Pope spoke, and like I said in my intro, there's winter, there's summer, there's autumn, there's spring. You can have those 4 conditions in different places at the same time. And so the advice to people in winter now will be different from what you give people in summer. You would not say that because the Pope is saying winter, wear winter clothes, so everybody, even in the summer, is going to wear winter clothes. That's not the issue. So you have to look at it. And I think what should guide is quality life. Quality life from generation to generation is critical. And dignity of the human being. I'm not asking, or the National Population Council, it's not even me, it's the policy that we have come to. We're talking about population dynamics that is consistent with the development aspirations of the country. That is what we have said we want to do. And how does these children on the water lake fit into it? How does child marriage fit into it? How does teenage pregnancy fit into it? If it fits into it, then that's fine. But if it doesn't, then I think we need to relook at it. So talking about reduction in population growth rate, it's about if we reduce child marriage, we will be reducing our population growth rate. If we reduce teenage pregnancy, we will be reducing it markedly. And those are the places that we have to be focusing our attention on.
Well, I mean, those instances you've cited, in those cases, then such parents are probably advised to reduce the number of children. But in the case where the couple is well-to-do and they can take care of a number of children, yet they are encouraged not to have larger families.
You see, the issue is that as a country, we have compulsory basic education. Probably you have your PhD. The government did not pay for it. But the government is giving you compulsory basic education. It does not mean that you cannot have 2, 3, 4 PhDs if you want to. You understand? That is why the NHIS has basics that it offers. It offers basics. It doesn't say you cannot have cosmetic surgery if you want to, or you want breast implants or gluteal implants or whichever implants. But this is what basically we can supply. I think it is important that as a nation, we look at it and see, because I think that we are talking about levies now here and there, but government cannot give you money that it has not taken from somebody. If government gives you money, it means the government has taken it from somebody. And another demonstration of the tragedy of the commons is that when people know that they can get money without working for, and the other group knows that they can work and their money will be given to somebody, everybody becomes lazy. Because you will get money you have not worked for, and I'm working and the money is going somewhere. So we all do nothing, you know. So it is important that our policies make us all productive, extremely productive. And we have to start from the education, and we have to obey some rules in education. We cannot bypass a pupil-teacher ratio in classrooms and get quality education. We cannot bypass technology and get quality education. And all that needs funding. So how are we going to have everything and everybody is okay? That is the question we have to ask ourselves.
So after all has been said and done, fertility or the choice to have children, would you agree that it's a personal choice?
Oh yes, it's a personal choice, but it has societal consequences. It is a personal choice, but it has societal consequences. I can decide to have 10, leave them on the street. And yesterday I went to church. I parked my car outside. When I came from church, my mirror has been taken. Yes, when I came from church, one of my side mirrors had been taken.
About that.
Those are some of the consequences.
Okay.
So yes, personal choices, but we have societal consequences. And that is why, for me, I think when the Bible talks about love one another, it means think of yourself, but think of the other person. Why do I have to have 10 and throw them on the street? That is not loving one another, you know. So we have to look at it and see that in life there are trade-offs. So we can do this, and then my side mirror is taken away because the person is probably hungry.
Okay, so if you just tuned in, we are discussing the extreme love for animals or pets, and replacing, using or referring to that love as, instead of referring that love to children or to human beings, you rather prefer to refer that love to animals and pets. So we are finding out whether this tendency is replacing procreation as was ordained by God, that a man and a woman ought to come together and have children. And indeed, the trend has been increasing so much so that the Pope Francis has expressed worry about that. And I have with me Dr. Letitia Adelaide-Appiah, who is the Executive Director of the National Population Council. Earlier on, we were joined via Zoom by Dr. Isaac Newman Arthur. He's a clinical psychologist, and he expressed some perspectives on that. But let me come back to the studio to Dr. Appiah to find out from her whether what lessons can we learn from what the Pope is saying, just opposed by what the population experts are also saying. What lessons can we learn?
It's the same thing. It's like the nutrition officer saying that you are overweight, lose weight, you are underweight, gain weight. That's the same thing. I'm sure if the Pope was in Africa, the Pope is speaking to a context you have to be mindful of. Yeah. He's speaking to Europeans who are replacing, in his mind, replacing
even in Africa,
children.
It's becoming a trend.
Well, but the majority, you see, in public health, talk about the majority. You know, that's why we're talking about herd immunity, If 80 people are vaccinated, it protects everybody. So we talk about the majority. I'm sure if the Pope was living in Africa in our streets, he would tell us to respect children and not to overindulge in them. Because it is overindulgence. And gluttony is a sin. When you overindulge in anything, it is sin, you know. So I'm sure that if the Pope was here and seeing how we're using our children as farmhands, how we're using our children to disentangle the nets in the Volta, and how we were taking our 12-year-olds into child marriage, I'm sure that is what he will speak about. Because it is still not dignifying to the human. Replacing humans with cats and disrespecting humans as worse than animals. I'm sure the Pope would also have spoken against it if he was here and seeing what we are doing.
So what happens, I mean, now we have tendencies like LGBTQ and people deciding they can just change the agenda within the moment. They can just go and just legally say, now I've become a man or I've become a woman for some benefits that they want. What happens if the Pope's call, for instance, is not heeded to?
Well, the Pope's call may not be heeded to, but we have to, as humans, I'm saying, we have to look at the long-term impact of our short-term gains. Because whatever we do affects us long-term, from generation to generation. What legacy do we want to leave? You know, the legacy we want to leave is very important. And also, as the Pope said, you know, the Pope has said that in Europe because they are replacing, and like the psychologist says, the children come first. In our country, where do the children stand?
Maybe they come first.
Exactly. You see, so the Pope has said something somewhere. How do we analyze it here? We don't have to take what the Pope has said, sinker, hook down, and sinker into our society. We also have to analyze our society in terms of our population. Where do the children stand? I'm sure they are at the tail end somewhere. But in Europe, they are first. You know, where are we putting them? So, yes, we may not heed to it, but the Bible also tells us to train the child the way we want the child to go, and when he grows, he will not depart from it. So how are we training them, and so that they are doing some of these things? When you look at the LGBT issue in our context, majority of it is poverty. Majority of it is poverty. So let's take away the poverty, the child poverty. Let's show that children love, and let's see the number of people who will go into that. We may not be able to eradicate it totally, but I'm sure that if the basics are met, majority of them will not indulge in that.
Okay. So one other thing as a population expert you advocate for is planned pregnancies. So if as a couple, if in the early stages of their marriage decide that we wouldn't want to have children in the next 5 to 10 years so that we can adequately prepare, would you liken it to a couple who doesn't want to have, because if, like Dr. Newman said, if they don't have children early and they grow up, they realize that the ability to even have children is limited and they probably cannot have children. Would you liken it to this same tendency that the Pope is worried about, or you still maintain it as a population advocate that you should have planned pregnancy, so as and when we choose to have children?
You see, everything has rules, like sleep, like water, like exercise, including pregnancy. Whether we accept it or not, it still has rules, you know. And pregnancies in women who are below 18 years is risky. The outcomes of the babies and the mothers are not the best, you know. So the optimal pregnancy between 18 and 35 years. That is where you optimally have children, spacing them between 2 to 4 years. And so if you can maintain this, you are good to go. Because what should be the outcome of pregnancy? It's a healthy baby who can be educated. Because like I said, education is extracting the best in man. And the healthy baby is the one best positioned to be educated so that the best in that person can come out. And that should be the basis of us having babies. You get it? So yes, you obey the rules, but then you obey the rules within that. And I think you are good to go.
Okay. So if you've been listening to Dr. Lida P and Dr. Isaac Newman, and you want to contribute to the show, you could join us via WhatsApp lines 0557 446429, 0557 446429, or you can also call our lines on 0264 200 997, 0264 200 997. We are also live on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. Dr. Pia, Dr. Isaac Newman mentioned that sometimes these choices come back to haunt in the future. Would you say that it really does, or would you agree with him, or you have a variant view about that?
Well, it does, because humans have to reproduce humans. You know, humans should find better comfort amongst humans. You cannot replace. I think the dogs would. You see, when you see two dogs playing, you see how they are very happy playing. You know, I think the dogs also see it as a duty to us, not as something probably they enjoy. Because humans are humans and humans in Noah's Ark. It's humans and humans, then animals and animals.
Yeah.
You get it. And like I said, the tragedy of the commons, when your individual need supersedes societal good, that is not the best. Your individual need should be in harmony with societal health. Then you would have left a legacy. Then you would have left something that posterity can also judge you by or live by and be grateful that you lived.
Okay.
Because everybody, when you leave this earth, they should say that because you passed, your life was better. And if you're going to just be associating with dogs and cats without humans, I don't think you'll be happy exiting. No.
So from what you said, I know you agree that pets cannot replace human beings. With such people who are in such a situation, how can they be helped to probably get to know or realize that indeed their pets cannot replace humans?
Your attention to dogs. It's a psychological issue, and probably they need to be helped, you know, because yes, there are so many disappointments in life, and your children will not always do what you ask them to do, but that is also part of learning. That is also part of growing. Which means that they just want something they can control, not something that they can nurture to bring out the best. Like I said, humans have something in them that we other humans should bring up the best in them. But if you're just focusing on dogs and cats, then you don't want to help society. You don't even want to help yourself. You just want to control. You just want something to control. And this is a big psychological issue.
Okay. I mean, another aspect to psychology, I don't know whether it's a psychological issue or physical. Some people see the agony of childbirth, or even sometimes they see children who are pained. Maybe a child has cancer, a child has a disease, a rare disease that probably they don't deserve to. So for such people, they decide not to even have children at all because of the pain associated with it.
You know, some people also think that children are so special that they are not up to the task of bringing them up. That's what some also think. They revere children so high. That's what I said. You shouldn't think too highly of them.
Okay.
Neither should we think too lowly of them.
Okay.
You know, so they think that they cannot bring up a child. They think they are inadequate to bring up a child because they are so special, so important that they don't know how to move around them. And we have to help them do that. On the flip side, we also have to know that children are special, not overly special, but they are special not to be maltreated. That no child should be treated less than an animal. That is not dignity. So both sides, we need to be helped so that we come onto the middle ground.
Okay, so there are some people who do not even fall within our discussion because it's not like a decision not to have children. Sometimes they desire to have children, but they do not have the ability to procreate, and they resort to artificial means, and which is probably also expensive. How do you think probably if government or any entity can come in to support such couples?
Well, you see, children are children, whether they are yours or not yours, they are all gifts from God. And so if you can help another child, you know, at times when you help another child who is not yours, God gives you yours. Because children are born in peace, where there's love, where there's laughter. But when you are tense because you do not have a child, you even keep them away. So I think we have to be nice to children, irrespective of who they are, whether they are ours or not. And I think we also have to know that it is not everybody who will have a child. Just like it's not every mango tree that bears fruits. That is nature.
I'm yet to find one.
Oh yes, I have one in my house. It doesn't bear fruit. It bears two trees. Big trees. You know, it's not every a fruit-bearing tree that bears fruit. Okay. But you see, I think we have to know that your importance in life, it's what you do for humanity. A lot of the people who have done great things do not even have children. A lot of people who have had so many children have their names wiped out somewhere. But what you do, how you harness your potential for national good, for community good, for international good, that is what you are judged by. So love children, whether they are yours or not. And if God wants you to have them, why not you would have them? Okay. But in any case, be useful to society.
Okay. All right. So it looks as if we are about to wrap up. I don't know what my producers are saying, but we're about to wrap up. But I would want you to also emphasize, I'm told there's a caller on the line. Hello. Good afternoon.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Your name, where you're calling from, please.
Nana speaking.
Okay. Can you tell us what you think about our topic?
Yes, a number. I didn't tune in early, but I've listened to her for some time. And I think I always admire listening to her. And I agree with her on those things that she has said. You see, I agree that children, and therefore human beings, have their role that they play. And those roles cannot be substituted with animals. So if people decide to have problems in society. So I agree that for me, some of the things that we see, if indeed it's happening, it's purely psychological and we need to work at it. And so the role that we cannot say that we are developing, gearing our attention towards animals, because society also needs to exist. Society to continue to exist. It's not just procreating, but the love that we show to the children that we bring forth is also important. So I'm saying that see either relief or see consolation from animals, they need to be psychologically talked to. They need to be educated. And yes, you can have affection for your pets, but the role that the pets play cannot be substituted with the role that your children and therefore human beings play. So I'm saying that let us continue the educational program. Those whose duty is it, those who are supposed, the agents of socialization, they should make sure they are playing their role very, very well, so that we shall know that children have their role that they play, and therefore the love that we have to get for children should not be replaced with animals, because the animal's role cannot substitute the role that children and therefore human beings play.
All right. Thank you so much, Nana, for your contribution. We really appreciate that. Well, two things that I deduced from what he said. Could it be that couples or many young couples, having gotten the debate about population control right, that they would probably resort to that, and we also have institutions, or we have avenues where people could be counseled, could be taught what to do if they make some choices. I mean, they could be told the repercussions of the choices they make. Do we have adequately such things in place?
Well, I don't know have the facts, so I cannot say whether we have adequately or not, because we have to base things on what is there. But I think that we could do better. We could educate people better. As Nana said, you know, the advocacy, the education has to go. And he said something that I really like, that children should be shown the love. It is important. Children grow better in love. Their talents are harnessed in love, not in fear, not in bitterness, not in hunger, not in lack of basic needs. So they have to grow in love. Yes, we can do better with the organizations that give such counseling, because our selfish or our needs should never be divulged from societal health. We go to school. I'm a medical doctor. I went to medical school. I don't treat myself most of the time. I benefit society. Teachers, they don't teach only their children. They teach others. And so we have to know that whatever we do, it's interdependent. We depend on each other for the common good. And so everything we do, selfish needs, individual needs, I won't say selfish needs because it's also legitimate needs at times, but it should be part of the societal needs, that so that society can go on from generation to generation.
Thank you so much for joining us. I don't know whether you have some few words to, and otherwise I've been told to wrap up because we've run out of time. Nana who called to contribute, and those who would have loved to contribute. But I would like to also add my voice to that of the Pope to say that indeed your dogs and cats cannot replace children. Our duty is to procreate, fill the earth, so that generations upon generations would sustain it. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Sarah Fori, and see you same time on Wednesday.